thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line is one of the most familiar faces of Hollywood, an entertainment performer of 55 years. I welcome to the program TV legend John Davidson. John, Brian C., honor to have you.
Well, Brian, thank you so much. Just relax. Thank you for such a nice welcome. It's nice to be here.
Oh, absolutely. John, your accomplishments are at the highest level that any entertainer can only wish for. You appeared on numerous television programs, sitcoms, game shows, variety shows, etc. But it was your singing talent, Broadway debut of Foxy in '64, that really showcased your talent to the public, correct?
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for knowing that. I was a theater arts major at Denison University in the '60s, and the question always is, when you graduate, which way to go? Or it was back then, should you go to L.A. and try to get into film and at that time television, or should you go and start on Broadway? I had done a lot of theater at Denison, and there's a lot of people that came out of Steve Carroll and John Shuck and Hal Holbrook, and came out of the theater arts department at Denison in Ohio. I decided to go to New York, and I got in a Broadway show. Got very lucky. I came to New York, and I had a Midwestern thing about me, and I guess that was unusual to be kind of a clean-cut guy and kind of an open-faced guy. I think other actors were maybe more New York, and I wasn't New York at all. So I played the part of a college graduate in a musical starring Burt Lahr as my first show in '64. Yeah.
And after that performance, John, TV producer Bob Banner liked what he saw, and he played a pivotal role in your career early on, correct?
Yeah. Bob Banner had discovered Carol Burnett in a Broadway show called Fade Out, Fade In, about the movie industry. And he was looking for someone to make into a variety host to coach a guy, just as he had coached Carol Burnett. At that time, Carol Burnett, he put her on his show, The Gary Moore Show, and he put me on his new show in '65 called The Entertainers. Also introduced on that show was Bob Newhart. Not introduced, but he was on it. Bob Newhart, Katarina Valente, and Dom DeLuise. And so I was this young kid, and I said to him, all I want to do is to be on Broadway. I just want to be a Broadway juvenile and leading man when I get older. And he said, no, you can be multifaceted. You can have a great big multifaceted career. And he kind of shaped my career like a Swiss Army knife. In other words, instead of just having one blade or one spear, you're going to be like a pitchfork. You're going to have all these different things that you're going to do a sitcom, and you can host variety shows, and you can do Shakespeare, and you can play Las Vegas, and you can host a television game show when that comes up. You can do movies. And so he fashioned this multifaceted career, and I'm very grateful to Bob Banner for that.
And that was around mid-'60s. Now, during the late '60s, early '70s, you were recording records. And I did some digging, John, and found a couple of songs which you performed late 1960s, '70s that I want to play and ask you about. Is that okay?
Sure, great. I'd love to hear them.
Let's hear John Davidson.
Here's a wonderful young star. Here's handsome John Davidson to sing for you.
This time we almost made the pieces fit. Didn't we, girl? This time we almost made some sense of it. Didn't we, girl? This time I held the answer right here in my hand, and I touched it, and it had turned. She's left many a young man feeling old, but she never leaves 'em feeling cold. They call her flame for obvious reasons. Oh, I gotta admit that it's frightening whenever her lightning flashes. Only ashes remain. Don't get too close. My friends all warn me. And maybe I should have learned by the boys who were burned by the fire. And they played with flame.
I'm in my 70s. Where did all of my muscles go? I'm in my 70s. I can get my blood to flow. Girls used to scream. They used to call me a fox. Now they call me grandpa. And I'm wearing orthopedic socks because I'm in my 70s.
That was John Davidson, and with us is the legendary John Davidson. Great stuff, John. What a voice. What comes to mind? What comes to mind hearing those tunes?
Well, the first one is, of course, the Ed Sullivan Show. I did it twice. I played the Ed Sullivan Show twice. I had trouble getting on that show because I never had a hit record. I had a lot of songs that they would play on the radio, but I never had what you'd call a signature tune. And when I would hang out with the other guys that I came up with Glenn Campbell and Tony Orlando and Denver and Bobby Vinton, they would all say, "Why don't you get a hit record?" And I said, "Send me one of your rejects, okay?" But I never could get that signature tune. So, yeah, that was a Jim Webb song, Didn't We? Flame, I think Flame was an attempt at a hit, and it just didn't go anywhere. I've tried a lot of things. You see, I started on Broadway, and I probably didn't spend enough time in the recording studio like Karen and Richard Carpenter did. You know, they spent hours in the studio trying to find a recording sound. I sing the way I sing, and it's been great. It's been great on television variety shows and in Vegas, and of course in Broadway shows. But and I have a lot of albums out, but I don't know. So when you play the last song you played is a song called 60 Sucks that I updated into 70 Sucks, and now in December I'm going to be 80, so I'm going to call it 80 Aches, I think. It's a comedy song about getting older, and I wrote that myself. I started writing my own tunes when I started playing Las Vegas.
Well, you know, I saw an interview you did on American Bandstand in 1976, I believe, and you told Dick Clark that most of your music are collector's items. Do you still feel that way?
Well, they're used as frisbees now. I think they sail really well through the air. No, by the way, Dick Clark was such a great man and was so supportive of me, and he helped me, and he produced several of my shows, a summer series and a Christmas special, and what a nice. Dick Clark has launched so many careers, and he was a great help to me. Yeah, it's been a crazy career. I think when people hear that I'm going to be playing a concert or a personal appearance, they don't know whether I'm going to play Hollywood Squares, you know, tic-tac-toe, or whether I'm going to do That's Incredible and show, two-headed cows and unusual things. And because I've done all these crazy things, you know, it's weird.
Yeah, and now something that crossed my mind reading on your career, John, you appeared on two of the most watched programs that changed the landscape of American television. One was Ed Sullivan, and the other Johnny Carson, which you guest hosted it over 85 times. And I want to ask you if you can talk a little bit about Carson and giving you the opportunity to do his show and how private of a person he was. He always intrigued me.
Yeah, he's. I think he's a perfect person for television, just as Mike Douglas was for daytime. Carson is not theatrical. He's subtle. He was a shy man and very, very private. And I think that's what you need for television. I think some people are too big for television. There's a certain personality that really works. Bob Newhart, for example, is a perfect television star in that you feel like it's okay to have him in your living room because he doesn't blow you away. He kind of sucks you in. Carson had that. Carson was very good to me, and I think NBC helped along the way. When I first started guest hosting The Tonight Show for Carson, I was co-starring in a series called The Girl with Something Extra with Sally Field. I'm playing Sally Field's husband. And she could read my mind. She had ESPN. It was when Sally Field was making the transition from The Flying Nun and Gidget and becoming the Academy Award winner that she became later. So it's an interesting time to be working with Sally Field. She's a great, great lady and helped me a lot with some acting stuff. But the time with Carson, I think, was helped by the fact that NBC wanted to help one of their NBC stars, you see. So they put me on The Tonight Show as well. But the producers seemed to like what I did, and I figured out the way to do Carson, and that is to throw it back at Carson, let him be funny, to try to set Johnny up to be funny. So, Carson was I wouldn't call him a friend because I still, he's passed away now, of course, but I never really knew Carson. I don't think Ed McMahon really knew Carson or Doc Severinsen. Very private man and certainly a great gentleman.
We're talking with the legendary John Davidson. John, so you host. Say it again. You use this word legend and legendary. It's embarrassing to me because I don't think of I know what a legend is. I'm not a legend. I'm just a guy who does a lot of stuff and is available. And let's get Davidson. He'll do it. And I've been willing to just do whatever the thing needed and try to do it as well as I can. And I certainly don't consider myself a legend. So it feels weird for you to say that. How about the gifted John Davidson?
I don't think I'm that gifted. I think I'm just a guy who learned how to do this craft of entertaining and singing and acting a little, and I love doing it. I still love singing with my guitar. As a matter of fact, I'm starting a new venue here in the Lakes. I live in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, and I'm opening a musical venue. I live in Sandwich, and so the musical venue is called Club Sandwich. I thought that would be a good idea. And it's John Davidson's Club Sandwich, and it's in the Lakes region, New Hampshire, in Sandwich. And we don't start until we get COVID calmed down a bit at the end of June, maybe 4th of July. But I love singing with my guitar, and I'm going to present other singer-songwriters as well. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Well, you mentioned the word legend, and I'm going to get a little philosophical if you don't mind, because looking at some of your past interviews, John, I get a sense you have some philosophical background. You're a philosophical thinker. And I heard you say once that the image you portrayed on television was the character of John Davidson. It's really not your true sense of self. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's very interesting, Brian. Thank you. Yeah, I was a philosophy major at Denison University before I went into theater arts. But I was never a great philosopher, but I've studied some of the major philosophies. But I don't because I came from Broadway, where I was creating, I played Curly in Oklahoma. That was my first Broadway show, actually, after Foxy, where I was really the star of the show. I was playing Curly, so that was a role. I think role playing is a big part of what anybody does. Like right now, you're playing the role of a talking head on radio. You don't call it a talking head. You're a radio personality with a talk show. So that's a certain role that you're playing. So you're different from when you are at home just sitting around reading a book. And that's what I meant to say by that. When I take stage, I usually think about communicating with the audience and how they perceive me. And when I walk on stage, what do they think? I'm not Robert De Niro. I don't come across like, whatever. You might call it role playing, but I think everybody does that. If you're an executive, if you're a CEO of some company, you put on your CEO suit and you go to work. It's not like you are when you're hanging out with your buddies or when you're playing with your kids. So that's what I mean by role playing. So I thought about what is the character of John Davidson, and I've worked on that, is how people perceive of me and how to make that work for storytelling, so I can tell a better story of whatever story I'm telling.
Yeah, and I also getting back to Carson, I don't know. I feel that Carson was the same way. It was a role that he was playing on television. He liked performing. He loved performing on television. But when the show was over, he wanted to be left alone. The image was gone. Would you say that's accurate? An accurate assumption?
Well, I don't know, do I? I mean, who knows? I think there is. I sing a song in my show called "Quiet Room." I have a quiet room, a room nobody can see. It's a secret place that's all my own, and only I have the key. The rest of my life is an open door. Its features can all be known, but nobody knows of my quiet room where I live apart and alone. I think everyone has that, and I bet Carson has that. But I mean, you're asking a question that can only be answered by Carson, and he's gone.
So let's talk about the squares and the $100,000 pyramid. How did that cross your desk? How did you get those two jobs?
Well, there came a point in my career in the 80s when my manager and agent and I realized that variety television was dying. I mean, it was not working anymore. The only one left was, I think, Carol Burnett at that point. But all the variety shows had gone off. People had gotten tired of that form. It's before American Idol and who else brought back variety. But it was a time when variety was going out. That's what I was doing. I was trained to be a variety show host. And someone said to me, I've got a new series for you. And I said, great. Is it an action and adventure series? Am I going to be the $6 million man? They said, no, it's to host a game show. Yeah, Peter Marshall was, of course, the great host of Hollywood Squares. And they called me and said, would you like to be the new Peter Marshall? And I said, well, I admire him a lot. I used to guest with him with Paul Lynde and Karen Valentine. And they said, would you like to host the show? It's the new Hollywood Squares. And at first I said, I don't want to do a game show. And somebody said to me, this is the new variety television of the 80s. So in 86, I started hosting the Hollywood Squares. And it just felt like variety television to me. So I really loved it.
Now, you also hosted That's Incredible with football star Fran Tarkenton, correct?
Yeah, I loved hanging out with Fran. He's a preacher's kid. My dad was a preacher as well. So preacher's kids, when they get together, try to gross each other out. You try to be as foul and dirty as you can because you're a preacher's kid, and it's a weird thing. And of course, Kathy Lee Crosby was lovely on the show. But the three of us got along really great, and That's Incredible was an amazing show. That was for 5 years. That's probably where I got my most exposure. So people who are in their 30s now, 30s and 40s, who watch That's Incredible a lot, don't realize that I sing because they never knew me as a singer. So, yeah, That's Incredible was great.
Yeah, that was 1980, and that's really what made you a household name. That's for sure. So what have you been doing? Your website is johndavidson.com. You have appearances on your website. What have you been doing during this COVID crisis?
Well, I've tried to. First of all, I canceled all my live shows. I had a whole tour set up, and I've been doing playing live musical venues, and I canceled all that. And just like Broadway's dark, it's been really hard on live entertainment. A lot of people have been out of work, of course, and a lot of small businesses are going. We all know that. But I tried to do some live streaming from my house and had a lot of trouble with the technical aspect of it. And I couldn't feel the audience at all. It reminded me when I had a radio show in college, I couldn't feel like anybody was listening, and they were, but I couldn't feel them. So I stopped doing any live streaming, doing home concerts on video. I just doing virtual stuff on Zoom and stuff. It just feels weird. I can't wait to perform live again, and as I say, I'm going to do that at my new club called Club Sandwich, starting in July in the Lakes region of New Hampshire.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your schedule. April 24th, your New Hope, Pennsylvania, the Raz Room. October 30th, the We Care Entertainment Fundraiser, Meredith, New Hampshire. You're scheduled for those two venues.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
I think by that time, let's hope that COVID is okay. I hope so. They're on the books, but I'm on a regular basis. My live performing, I think, will really start in July. But yeah, let's hope those dates come true. I hope COVID is okay by then. I think President Biden is doing a lot to get us all vaccinated and to try to get back to some sort of normal life.
Now, I have a couple of minutes left, and I got to ask you, I take a look at some of your older programs, the John Davidson Show, and you've interviewed Ringo Starr. I love when you sang with Mama Cass. Any memories you can share with us about the John Davidson Show, some of your most memorable moments?
Well, the Ringo Starr interview was, oh man, he showed up either high or drunk or something. He was on Planet Nine, and it was irritating to me because I couldn't even talk to him. I'd like to meet him under other circumstances later. I think he's a wonderful talent, and I didn't get a chance to really see that when he came on my talk show. I'm in awe of most famous people that I interview. I must tell you, I can usually find something to be in awe of famous people. I've worked with a lot of big stars, especially on Hollywood Squares and all, and I always get nervous. I always think, why would they want to talk to me? And I have so much respect for people that have amazing careers that sometimes I have trouble talking to them.
Well, it was a great performance, you and Mama Cass singing. You both sounded fantastic. Do you remember that vividly?
Oh, very much. Yeah, that was the shows I did in London. I did a whole series. I was the Tom Jones summer replacement on ABC that year. It was late 60s, and duet with Mama Cass. I did several times. I guested on female singers shows, like the Carpenters. I did 2 guest shots with Karen Carpenter and sang duets with her. What a talent she was! I miss her. I miss her spirit and her style. But yeah, Tony Tennille's another singer that I did some duets with. You can find on YouTube. It's been an amazing career, and I'm so grateful for it, Brian. I've just been able to do so many things, and I'm still going. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, you're still going. And final question: what is left for you to do? What's the goals you have set to do moving forward?
in my mind, I haven't done my best show yet. I'm still working on my show. I collect funny material. I write songs. As I say, I'm doing my musical show at Club Sandwich in Sandwich, New Hampshire, and one night concerts. I love working on my show. I'll probably never retire. I'm going to be 80 in December, and I'm singing as well as I've ever sung, and it feels great. I toured in Wicked a couple of years ago, and then I toured in Finding Neverland, playing Captain Hook and Charles Frohman. I still love doing shows, so I'm very grateful that I can still do it.
Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. It was an honor to speak with you. And, you know, anytime you want to come on and release your new album, you're always welcome, John.
Thank you, Brian, and congratulations on the show. This has been great. All the best.
Oh, thank you so much. And the website is johndavidson.com, johndavidson.com. He'll be appearing, as the website states, April 24th, the Raz Room, New Hope, Pennsylvania, October 30th, New Care Entertainment Fundraiser, Meredith, New Hampshire. Thank you, John. Until next week, happy collecting to all.